It is just totally unbelievable when you hear these forecasts. You hear what's been going on in the Midwest. You get these postings from the National Weather Service of St. Louis. 2 to 6 inches of rain is what was forecasted to happen across the middle Mississippi River Valley, a tornado outbreak across the south central states. And these are just this is the type of rain accumulations you would hear about in a tropical storm occurring all the way in the mid-Mississippi River Valley. But what makes this extra spectacular over here is the northern side of the system. What we could say is that it's just absolutely amazing that we're holding right now late March. We've mentioned that March 25th into the 26th is a day where Chicago has seen, I believe, at least 2 record-breaking snowstorms. So these are days which are what would be called in certain languages a masugaldic day for snow, March 25th into the 26th. We have an ideal setup for Chicago in regards to the storm track. This is ideal to very close to ideal to produce heavy snow here in Chicago. The only thing is that it's only ideal in regards to the storm track. But the problem is the Arctic air, we're just too late in the season and we do not have that cold air. So what are we going to do about it? Well, if we would have that cold air, the snow accumulations would be astronomical. We're talking about well over, okay, I hope this is not taken out of context. If there would be Arctic air, snowfall accumulations, this would be an 18 to 20 inch snowstorm, 15 to 20 inch snowstorm. That's what would be happening if there's Arctic air. We don't have Arctic air. However, we do have a way of getting air that's going to be cold enough to produce snow. And that's something which is called dynamic cooling. In fact, so the dynamic cooling is going to play a major variable for places closer to Chicago or somewhere between Milwaukee and Chicago. When you go further north, we have another variable which is called evaporative cooling. We have this dynamic cooling, I think is going to be the name of the game over here, and that's been a theme this winter. We've had a number of snowstorms that were able to produce major snowfall of more than 6 inches despite the lack of Arctic air due to dynamic cooling. It happened once in Arkansas. It happened in the southeast part of the United States. We've had even the storms which do have Arctic air. There still is dynamic cooling, which gets the snow started during those storms. But to have a storm that's generally revolving around dynamic cooling, that's been something I think that's been unique to this winter, which has been happening in the southern areas. So we have, once again, this is not unique to this winter. It's, we're going to have a storm. It's just amazing. It's amazing. The National Weather Service has issued a winter storm warning. I don't know if people know this or not. They actually upgraded the winter weather advisory, which was for areas just to the north of Chicago. We're talking about Illinois, and they've upgraded it to a winter storm warning for the potential of more than 6 inches of snow. Actually, the forecast is calling for 6 to 10 inches of snow in places like Milwaukee. This comes from the National Weather Service. We have northern Cook County is in a winter weather advisory right now. So the National Weather Service is forecasting 2 to 4 inches. Let's just explain the storm a little bit so we'll know what to expect when we wake up tomorrow morning. What we have is that, as we mentioned, there's not enough cold air for the precipitation to fall as snow. Therefore, precipitation starts off as rain, probably everywhere around Chicago. Some say north of Chicago, perhaps it will start off as a mixture. But pretty much it's going to be starting off as rain here in the Chicago area. If I'm speaking about West Rogers Park, we're in this area, the West Rogers Park portion, the northern parts of Chicago, within the Chicago city, the northern part of the Chicago area, precipitation starts off with rain, very high confidence in that. Very high confidence. Despite the fact we're on the cold part of the storm, it's rain. There's no dynamic cooling in the beginning of the storm. The precipitation will not be heavy enough. Okay, that's the first 3 hours of the storm. Also, in the beginning of a storm, we have evaporative cooling. Even that will not change the precipitation to snow. It's going to be rain. The first 3 hours is going to be rain. Okay, now the precipitation rates start to pick up, and in some areas, they're going to intensify greatly. I don't think anybody really knows for sure where that's going to happen. The thinking right now is that it's going to happen well north of Chicago, and so that's the question. When you have high precipitation rates, as we've mentioned previously this week, what happens is dynamic cooling. That means the cold air aloft, cold air in the sky, gets brought down to the surface, and the precipitation actually changes to snow. It's totally amazing. It will actually change to snow despite the fact we don't have enough cold air. So that's not going to happen in the beginning of the storm, because that heavy precipitation rate doesn't happen in the beginning of the storm. It will happen about 3 hours into the storm. But here's another thing. There's thunderstorms. Now, these thunderstorms are tricky. These thunderstorms might be popping up around Kankakee. They might. It's kind of strange to get thunderstorms on the cold side of a storm. So the thing is that I don't think people have put two and two together yet, but thunderstorms also increase precipitation rates. One has to wonder whether it's possible, and I'm just saying this as a thought, one has to wonder whether it's possible to have snow perhaps even significantly further south than what's currently being forecasted because of a super heavy precipitation maker. A thunderstorm. Could that happen? Or are we dealing with a situation where there's going to be warm air separating the cold air aloft and the surface where these thunderstorms occur? So this idea of the thunderstorms, they're not so predictable, of the thunderstorms making that connection between the precipitation, the heavy precipitation rates in the thunderstorms, and then the connection of the heavy precipitation rates to the snow. So the heavy precipitation rates to the snow, everyone's made that connection already. The thunderstorms are, so far, there's not been that connection made as far as I know, but that is something perhaps one could keep in mind. I want to remind people, in St. Louis, Missouri, 1982 in January, I wasn't there, but I was told that there was rain, and the rain changed to snow, and they were forecasting 3 to 6 inches. It ended up being 14 to 20 inches, the biggest blizzard really in the St. Louis area, with thunderstorms. So I would assume that there was heavy precipitation rates that changed the precipitation over to snow earlier than what was expected. Something we have to keep in mind is the connection between the thunderstorms and the precipitation rate, and will that increase the chances for snow to fall in areas further south. Another thing to keep in mind, we've mentioned a few times this winter, in general, storm tracks have been going a little bit further south and east than what they've originally thought. Right now, the heaviest snow is along the Wisconsin Illinois state line, something like that, maybe even in Milwaukee. One has to wonder whether the storm track is also playing a role here. Storm track always plays a role. Here we have the precipitation rates playing a very big role. So one has to wonder whether that's possible. One also has to wonder about the cutoff, the sharp cutoffs on all sides of the narrow band. You know, the bullseye could very well be 6 to 12 inches, but there might only be a bullseye. There might not be anything else, because if you have 6 to 12 inches, maybe in this case, the snow to water ratio is so high, is so low actually, it's 5 to 1, 8 to 1. You know, it's on average about 8 to 1. At times it's down to 5 to 1. So we're talking about, if, you know, a storm that would normally produce 12 to 24 inches is going to be cut in half, even if all of it falls as snow, to 6 to 12 inches. Chicago, we mentioned, in a lot of storms, we tend to end up in the 3 to 6 inch area. That's in those January storms. But one has to wonder if there even will be a 3 to 6 inch area, or if the snow will just go from the areas where it was pouring snow, basically, it's accumulating, and it's, you know, but right outside that area, it's just not accumulating. So one has to wonder whether it's just going to go from 6 inches to almost nothing on both the south side and the north side, on all sides of that bullseye. So it's an interesting storm, and to tell you the truth, I really do not know. I really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I I don't have that much confidence in the forecasts that I'm hearing, but the way things have gone this winter and the amount of variables at play, it sounds like a nice little, the basic idea is that we're going to have heavy precipitation, around an inch, actually 0.8 to about 1.25 inches accumulate. There's good confidence in that. The first few hours will be falling as rain, and the precipitation will be changing over to snow at some point. If the precipitation changes over to snow, every hour will make a difference. The snow will be coming down hard. Temperatures might be above 32. So the forecast that the National Weather Service has made, that's, we can live with that one. But, it's very, very hard to know really what's going to happen with all this stuff at play. Thunderstorms, heavy precipitation rate, the storm track as always. And another big thing we can talk about for tomorrow is the strong damaging winds that will be taking place not in Chicago, really further to the east, places in Ohio, especially Ohio, and a powerful warm front that moves over Baltimore tomorrow. Temperatures were in the 40s this afternoon in Baltimore, but they're going to rise with strong south winds as temperatures rise into the 60s tomorrow as a warm front pushes up and over the city, bringing windy and warm weather into the Baltimore area. We have a couple other systems bringing snow to Chicago again this week. So, everyone, I wish you a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll see. We haven't had a really good storm this year. So, and it's Shabbos. It would be nice to see snow, but Milwaukee right now might be closer to the bullseye on that one, with probably closer to 6 to 10, maybe even 6 to 12 inches. Have a great Shabbos. Also, because we're getting sick of the snow.